Welcome back everyone. We're going to be talking about none other than the Samsung Galaxy S20 Ultra and comparing it to the iPhone 11 Pro Max. Now honestly, I probably should have done this video, a couple months ago when the phone came out, but it was too expensive at the time and I was bankrupt, so I couldn't really, I had to move some funds around a little bit. But regardless, I'll be completely honest, this is going to be a pretty interesting one because there's so many advantages for both the iPhone 11 Pro Max. I love iOS, but I also love Android and Samsung. And with the iPhone 11 Pro Max, you're getting a lot in that, specific phone. You're getting long software updates. You're getting really great cameras, really big screen, a lot of different things like that. But the Samsung Galaxy S20 Ultra, you're also getting a very big screen, really good cameras, and software support for the time being. iOS is always going to be superior when it comes down to it. But strangely enough, the iPhone 11 Pro Max is still a little bit older than the Samsung Galaxy S20 Ultra, but the prices haven't really gone down too much for both of these. Now, I have seen some Galaxy S20 Ultras go down to about that $900 to $1,000 price tag, considering it starts at way more than that. I've also seen the iPhone 11 Pro Max go down to around that value as well. So they're both in the used market about that same price. Now I did check on Amazon and they're both roughly the same price of what they started off with. So I'll go find them for the cheapest prices on Amazon. I'll link them down in the description below so you guys can get them from there and help support the channel at the same time. Now like I said, the 11 Pro Max is kind of the older one, so I guess we'll start off there with the screen size. Now on the 11 Pro Max, we have a 6.5 inch Super Retina XDR OLED display. It's 1242 by 2688, and honestly, I think it's a really good panel. I think Apple did a really good job even with the XS Max. They knocked it out of the park. The panel looks sharp. You have very little bezel around the display. You still have that notch. Some people might care about it, but I'll be completely honest, coming from somebody who used an iPhone 10, 10s, 11, and all these other phones, you kind of get used to the notch. It's really not that big of a deal. And every time I transition and use an iPhone 11 and go to like an iPhone 11 Pro or to a Galaxy S20, whatever, it really doesn't bother me too much. Like, I don't even think about it. However, with the S20 and the S20 Ultra, they do look better overall. But I think with the 11 Pro Max, the screen looks great. It feels really good in the hands. Anytime I use, you have True Tone on the display too, which is really cool. So for sure, at the end of the day, the iPhone 11 Pro Max, I believe, has a really good panel and it still holds up, so many months later since it's been out. Whereas on the Samsung Galaxy S20 Ultra, we have a 6.9 inch dynamic AMOLED display. This one is a 1440p panel, so automatically we already have kind of a higher resolution panel on the Samsung Galaxy S20 Ultra. When the iPhone 11 Pro Max, it's a little bit lower resolution, but it's not even that big of a deal. Honestly, I've owned both. You can't really tell. Now with the S20 Ultra, you do have a hole punch display, which is very important. So you have very little bezel around the whole entire display, but on top of that, you have a hole punch display in the center, which is really cool. And I actually do like this design. I never really liked the design of the S10 Plus too much. I thought I liked it, but now I really don't. So the S20 Ultra, I really like how they just took out that extra camera and just made it way more symmetrical in the center. Now on top of the really good looking panel that it has, you also have 120Hz refresh rate on the Samsung Galaxy S20 Ultra, which is huge. That is extremely cool. I'm really hoping Apple does bring that with the iPhone 12. There's a bunch of rumors saying that it will come out, but we really don't know 100% for a fact. So the S20 Ultra really has that advantage, which is extremely cool. So when it comes down to the display, I'll probably tell you, I think the Galaxy S20 Ultra probably wins here by far. You have that really good looking display, but you also have that 120Hz, which is extremely cool. So on the bottom, USB Type-C. On the S20 Ultra, I said that's so weird. In the 11 Pro Max, you have a lightning port, and on the back, you have kind of like a quadruple camera setup on the S20 Ultra, but a triple camera setup on the 11 Pro Max. You have a micro SD card slot on the S20 Ultra too, which is extremely cool. I love seeing that. 11 Pro iPhones, we never really had that, which is not that big of a deal. And they both have IP68 dust and water resistance, but on the iPhone 11 Pro Max, you can go up to 4 meters of water for 30 minutes, whereas on the S20 Ultra, we can go up to 1.5 meters of water for 30 minutes. So a little bit of a difference right there. Again, you're not going to go and, divorce your spouse or anything like that, but it's still a pretty noticeable thing, especially with the 11 Pro Max being a little bit more rugged when it comes down to it. Now, when you're feeling both in the hand and everything, I don't think one really blows the other one out of the water, but what I will tell you though is that the matte finish on the glass of the 11 Pro Max really has grown on me, and I think it feels better than the standard glass back that you get on the S20 Ultra. And the one OnePlus 8 and 8 Pro also had that matte frosted kind of texture to it too, and I like that. I think that looks really cool and it feels really good in the hand too, even though you're never going to feel like you're going to have a case on it, but I still think it's a pretty cool thing at the end of the day. So when it comes down to it, I truly believe that probably on the outside in the body and everything, probably the S20 Ultra wins, but the iPhone 11 Pro Max does have a little bit of an advantage when it comes down to the build quality as well as the frosted glass back. Now that pretty much covers it up there. Now hitting on the software, okay? The iPhone 11 Pro Max has started with iOS 13. We are on iOS 13.5, which is really cool. Whereas on the Samsung Galaxy S20 Ultra, we started off with Android 10 on One UI 2. Now here's the thing, okay? It's quite obvious which one is going to win in the long run, okay? The longevity support, iPhone is definitely going to win. And I can even tell you exactly probably what software update that S20 Ultra is going to end at. Now, it's starting off with Android 10. It's going to get Android 11. It's probably going to end on Android 12. Now, I say probably because Samsung could easily go and switch up their software lifecycle. They're getting a lot of heat, and with OnePlus right behind them and, taking up, I'm sure, a little bit more of market share, Samsung is going to have to do something else, man. And I think they might go and switch up their software lifecycle. They might start increasing their software support, which would be really, really huge. Whereas on iOS and Apple and the iPhone, bro, they just kill it. They do so good at it. I mean, this phone, you can pick up the iPhone 11 Pro Max when the S20 Ultra is unsupported, and you'll still have way more software support than the S20 Ultra started with, I think. I don't know, I could be wrong, but moral of the story is the 11 Pro Max is going to be lasting for an extremely long amount of time, but the S20 Ultra is still supported for the time being. So it's not like, we're in the future right now. If you're watching this 3 years later, then obviously there's a difference. But so when it comes down to it, the 11 Pro Max is going to, outlast the S20 Ultra, but in the time being, the S20 Ultra is still supported too. So that really pretty much covers it up there. Now hitting on the performance, the S20 Ultra has a Qualcomm Snapdragon 865 chipset, an octa-core CPU, and Adreno 650 GPU. There's only one model of the S20 Ultra with 12 gigs of RAM, with the iPhone 11 Pro Max has that Apple A13 Bionic chip, hex-core CPU, and 3 different models with 4 gigs of RAM as well. But I can tell you about the performances. I'll just start off with the 11 Pro Max. Actually, I'll start off with the S20 Ultra. It's a very fast phone. The S20 Ultra is extremely fast. Anything I did with it really was, it felt more or less the same as the standard S20, which I was kind of thrown off about, but it's still a very fast phone. The 120 Hz refresh rate really adds so much fluidity into what you're doing with it. Even though it's not faster, if you enable it, it just makes it look faster, I think, which, equally just as cool. So extreme gaming was really cool on the S20 Ultra. Really anything I did with that phone, it handled it extremely well. There was no time where I was using my S20 Ultra and was like, wow, this is a slow phone or it's glitchy or whatever. It didn't even heat up that much, which I was surprised about. Sometimes my Samsung phones, they've always kind of heated up a little bit. The S20 Ultra really didn't, which I was surprised about. So, however, that doesn't necessarily mean the 11 Pro Max is a bad performing phone, and that's not what I'm trying to say by any means. The 11 Pro Max is extremely fast, and I think it rivals the S20 Ultra in a lot of ways. The 11 Pro Max can easily get you from point A to point 12 or whatever. Anything I ever did with my 11 Pro Max, it was extremely fast, it was extremely smooth. I will say this, the UI and the gestures on an iOS device, even though the Android device has way more, RAM and performance and increase and all that stuff, just the simplicity and the fluidity of the iOS ecosystem is so smooth. The gestures are really nice and responsive. With Android and just even with Samsung's, I don't understand. It's such a weird experience. It kind of is a little bit choppy and glitchy to even pull up my gestures sometimes. It's not the end of the world, but it's still kind of a little annoying thing. So even though the S20 Ultra has this much amount of performance and all that, the software is the one thing that kind of bogs it down a lot. And it's kind of the opposite for iOS. It doesn't have the most amount of RAM or anything, but the software is so optimized for the hardware that it has that it really doesn't even matter. That's why phones like the iPhone 5 still feel super smooth today, because the software is just so optimized for those specific phones. So in terms of performance, I think probably the S20 Ultra might be the faster one overall, but the smoother experience would probably go for the 11 Pro Max. Now hitting on the cameras, I could have spent 40 hours talking about this stuff. They're both really good cameras. Let me just get that out of the way, okay? The S20 Ultra has a 108 megapixel wide-angle lens, 48 megapixel periscope telephoto lens, a 12 megapixel ultra-wide sensor, and then a 0.3 megapixel depth sensor, where the iPhone 11 Pro Max has that 12 megapixel wide-angle lens, a 12 megapixel telephoto lens, and then a 12 megapixel ultra-wide sensor. Both can do 4K at 60, which is cool. The S20 Ultra does have the advantage of being able to shoot 8K videos. Now, Is everybody going to use this on a daily basis? Probably not, but it's still kind of a cool thing to have at the end of the day. So for sure, at the end of the day, I mean, the S20 Ultra, it has to win there just because of that capability. The photos and videos look really good from the S20 Ultra as well, but the iPhone 11 Pro Max's camera still looks extremely good. Like, you're not going to feel like you have a super weird or old phone or whatever. Like, that is not the case by any means. It's extremely smooth, it's extremely fast. It's an extremely good camera, and really anything you do with it, you'll have a perfectly good time using it, trust me. So, and on the front, 40 megapixel camera on the S20 Ultra, 12 megapixel sensor on the 11 Pro Max. Both can do 4K at 60 on the front camera, and even here I don't think one necessarily blows the other one out of the water, but still, the S20 Ultra I would say probably ends up getting the, thumbs up in my books, where the 11 Pro Max is a little bit behind it. Now ending it off with the battery life, 5,000 mAh battery on the S20 Ultra, and about a 4,000 mAh battery on the 11 Pro Max. Now in terms of raw battery power, I would probably give the edge to the 11 Pro Max. I feel like that phone has the better battery life, but the battery feature and everything would probably come with the S20 Ultra. We have a reverse wireless charging, which is really cool, and I really do like that. So having the capability of charging your Samsung Galaxy Buds or whatever just from the back of your phone is extremely cool and futuristic, and I'm really hoping Apple brings that with this year's iPhones as well. Now to kind of sum up the video and to answer the question, which iPhone should you pick up in 2020? Well, this is what I would say. I think the S20 Ultra has a lot going for it, and I think it probably is the more feature-packed phone, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's the better phone, you know what I mean? Because there's advantages for both phones really, and you just have to ask yourself, what type of phone experience do you want? Do you want a phone that has all the bells and whistles and has so many features, but has a software experience and kind of has, a strange software life cycle, and it's not going to last as long as a counterpart, which is the iPhone 11 Pro Max, that also has pretty good cameras. It doesn't have as good of a camera setup as the S20 Ultra, I'll admit. The screen still looks great, but it's not as great as the S20 Ultras, but the software experience is great, the hardware is great, it feels great in the hands, performance is top tier, and kind of what I'm getting at is one doesn't necessarily blow the other one out of the water. I say it all the time, but it's really up to you. I kind of laid out all the pieces here, so now it's up to you to pick one up and decide which one you want to get. Now, like I said, I'll leave both of these linked down in the description below for the cheapest prices that I find on Amazon. So hopefully I kind of broke it down for you guys. If you have any other questions or anything, let me know in the comment section below. Hit the like button, that would mean so much, but definitely hit that subscribe button. Every single subscriber that we get really does count, so it means so much if you guys could hit that. Also check out the other links down in the description as well. My Twitter, my Instagram, my second channel. All those links are linked down below. I'd really appreciate it if you guys would check it out. More importantly than everything else, I love every single one of you guys. Hopefully I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace out till then.